Good evening and welcome, welcome, welcome. Thanks for tuning in to In the End We Win with Curtis. My name is Curtis Austin and I will be your host for the next hour and every Monday going forward. Thank you for tuning in. My plan for the show tonight is to just chit chat with a great friend of mine. We're going to talk about some awesome things that he's done in his past and some things that he's doing to assist the youth in our communities. My goal for the show each and every Monday is to deliver empowering information that will enlighten, enrich, and inform. So with that being said, let me let you know that we are an interactive show, so I am encouraging all of my listeners to call in. The phone number to call in is 240-719-2560. You can call in, we'll take your questions live over the air, comments, concerns, things like that. I encourage those things. Part of how we can keep the show going is through your participation, including sponsorships and advertisements. If anyone out there chooses to advertise with us, you can email me at winwithcurtis@gmail.com, and then you can also call into the show while I'm here at 240-719-2560. One of our sponsors is Star Imports, and I just want to say a little bit about them. They are the home of the boutique style buying experience. Star Imports, Adele Motors, has 50 years in the automotive industry. Star Imports is in Camp Springs, right off of Branch Avenue, behind the Red Lobster. They provide the personal attention you deserve and treat you with utmost respect in your car buying experience. Bad credit, no problem. We have credit restoration programs to help you. Credit applications on www.starimports.com. Star Imports does bank, in-house financing, and buy here, pay here. The vehicle you want, if the vehicle that you want is not in the inventory, no problem. They'll go out and get it to your specifications. So, once again, thanks for tuning in. We're going to have a great time this evening. I have once again a good friend of mine, Marco Price Bey, and welcome, sir.
Hey, it's a pleasure being here. It's a pleasure being here, and congratulations to you kicking off.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
New segment of the show.
Thank you. And this is the first. You're my first interviewee. Look, they're calling already. Interesting. You're my first interviewee, man, so I really appreciate it. I really wanted to capture your story. You guys have the book. You and your dad, you're a co-author of the book. So I just wanted to talk to you a little bit, Marco, about how it was for you when you were... Good evening.
Hello.
Hi.
Bad connection.
Can you hear me?
Well, I'm going to try anyway. My name's Talita Jackson.
Talita?
I'm calling in for Mr. Bey, Marco Bey Price.
Okay.
Just want to say about that great man, that brother right there, always positive, always reaching back to the young, and just a heart of gold, and don't mind support.
Thank you so much, Teresa.
Hello?
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Tell her to cut her radio down.
He said, cut your radio
I'm proud
down.
of you, God, brother.
Thank
It's
you.
been a long time coming.
She can't hear
You've spoken into my earth years ago. Thanks to you for my non-profit speaking it into existence, and now I'm an author/notary. So I look up to you, bro. Keep up the good work. Love you.
Love you too. Salute to you. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Thanks for calling in, Teresa. Thank you. So, Marco, I just want to jump back to you and get your perspective of how it was for you growing up without your dad.
Well, my father was incarcerated when I was born. My father, Eugene Brown, he was pretty much in and out of penitentiary my whole life. And so my grandmother, which is my father's mother, and my grandfather, they raised me.
Okay.
So coming up without my father, it was pretty at one time, I didn't really realize the absence because the support that I had. But once I got up into my teens, I started feeling it.
Okay.
And I'm saying that to say that the absence of my father, I feel like I had to be my own man.
Okay.
And in retrospect, when I look back and I think about it, I start to disconnect from my family because, like, out in the street, you had to be either a predator or you was prey.
Mm-hmm.
Coming up in Southeast Washington, D.C., back then, it wasn't too much gunplay, but
Right.
you had to know how to fight.
Right, definitely.
And so I learned earlier on that in order to be recognized, you had to go out there and, you know, put your work in. And so that's what I did, but the absence of my father, it played on me down the line when I realized certain morals and principles and values that your father is supposed to embed and instill in you.
That's right.
Those was missing.
Mm-hmm.
And so all my values came from the street. All of the values that I learned, all my principles and things all that came from being in that environment. And consequently, it led up to me, you know, going to juvenile institutions
Sure.
and so forth and so on.
Sure. Now, for everyone that's looking on, Marco is the co-author of From Pawns to Kings with his father, Eugene Brown. So it's an awesome illustration of his story. This book was also brought to life through a movie called Life of a King, where Cuba Gooding Jr. played his father in the actual movie, and it was a depiction of Marco and Mr. Brown's lives. So in the book, now I've read the book, Marco, I noticed a few occasions where decision making and choices were critical in not only yours, but also in your dad's every day. And there were many moments when in the book it stated I had a choice to make, or I made the wrong decision. So do you believe that with your father being away and the fact that he was incarcerated, did that play a role in your decision making? And I know you mentioned a little bit about that a minute ago.
To a certain degree. However, it comes a time that, you know, you have to take responsibility and accountability
Bingo.
for your own actions. And so I used to place the blame game when I didn't know.
Right.
But once I became consciously aware of the things that I was encountering, it pretty much came from those decisions and those values that I accepted and believed to be true. However, you know, my decisions came because, like I said, coming up with my father, my father's mother and his father, which is my grandfather, they pretty much embedded certain principles in my life. I chose to go on the other side.
Sure.
Because around Southeast, where my other grandmother, which is my mother's mother, you know, the environment was a little different. You know, so when I went around there, it was more excitement. You know, the guys was hustling, and I seen, you know, guys riding around in BMWs and Mercedes-Benzes, and those things was fascinating. I was allured by the fascination of those shiny things, and so that captivated me at an early age, and so I was drawn into that. So my decision making was based on the values that I accepted, and I began to value materialistic things more than really I value my life. And I began to, you know, make those sacrifices and make those decisions to do the things that, like I said, led up to, you know, me being incarcerated.
You know, it's important I'm glad that we're discussing that, because I too grew up without my father. My father was murdered when I was less than 2 years. I was younger than 2 years old, right? So we relate in that vein. But year after year after year, I hear how young men are growing up without a two-parent household, and now more than ever, it seems like that's just the norm,
Right.
right? And how do we overturn it? How can we? What can we do? I know that you have a mentorship program that we're going to talk about later on in the
Right.
show, and your dad has something that we're going to talk about later on as well. But where does that come from, man? Is everyone a Lord? Was everyone a Lord? You know, all of these households where the father isn't there, or all of those kids, lured into, because there's also a high rate of those same children under the age of 18 who's fallen victim to the penal system as
Right.
well.
Right.
So is that allure really that strong, or what can be done, that you think, to help curb those those rates?
Well, first and foremost, the allurement is strong because when you see children coming up without their father, and mother might be on drugs and might have 3 and 4 kids, and so survival, survival of the fittest, that's a law.
Right, right.
And you gotta do things that's gonna allow you to eat.
Definitely.
At the end of the day, I came up, when I was coming up around the inner part of Southeast off of Alabama Avenue, I used to see kids that never sit down and ate a meal, a home cooked meal. They ate from the carryout every day. They had to go out there and hustle up enough money so they can feed their siblings.
Wow.
And to see the struggle, it was real.
Right.
It was real. And the allurement is strong, however, there's still a choice. And I think right now today, that's why I feel so indebted in it being my moral obligation and my social duty to give back.
Wonderful.
To let the youngest know that you don't have to go the same route that I did. In which a small percentage of children didn't go that route, and they went on to get their education. And I had to learn that education was my outlet.
Okay.
Because after being incarcerated,
That's right.
that's what pretty much freed me. That's when the light came on.
Okay.
And I was able to see things from a different perspective.
Right.
And so when you only know what you've been pretty much exposed to. And so once I was exposed to, different books, different readings, certain spirituality and different books about psychology, as a man think of, it made me aware that my actions and my character was a direct reflection of my thoughts.
Sure. Okay.
That I had misplaced the glory and the shame had been misplaced. I glorified the things really that I should have been ashamed of.
Okay.
I looked at a guy that worked 9 to 5. I looked at him like he was crazy. And we was out there making like $1,500, $2,000 a day. I mean, we was on a serious grind, 13, 14 years old. We stayed up all night long.
And thinking it's fun.
And thinking it's fun.
Right.
At the same time, we was turning down our own community.
Right. Right.
So, like I said, your choices are based upon your values.
Right.
And your values are a reflection of the principles that you live by.
Okay.
And so if you don't have no principles, it is said that how should man's actions be right when you don't have no rule over your life? And so when you don't have no rule, no structure, no guidelines, and then you'll do anything based on what's presented to you.
Right. So this education that you speak of, where did you get that?
Being incarcerated.
Okay, and how long were you incarcerated?
I was incarcerated as a juvenile off and on from the age of 13 up until I was 17. Cedar-Knoll, Oak Hill, detention centers down low, and then I came home for a couple of years. The crack epidemic was real strong in the mid to late 80s. That's when DC had the highest death toll during that time.
Murder capital.
Yeah, the murder capital. And like I said, consequently, I ended up doing 16 years from the age of 19 all the way up until I was 35 years of age.
Wow.
And so while incarcerated, I made a choice. I made a decision. I said, do I want to come out being the same person that I was before I went in? Or do I want to take the opportunity to make the best out of my situation and make the penitentiary become my university?
Wow. Okay.
And so I began to read. I mean, I immersed myself in books. That was my escape. I recall one time when I was at a maximum security, locked down 23 hours a day, and the only outlet that I had was my ability to be able to read and comprehend and pretty much just be a sponge to all the information that I could. And I came across this psychological theory it called paradigm shift.
Okay.
And you can pretty much project your thought and visualize and see how you want it to be.
Okay.
You know, regardless of what your circumstances or your situation. I was an 8x12.
Okay.
But I seen myself being successful. I seen myself coming out here, taking my place in the affairs of men and doing the things that I'm doing. And so,
Faith.
while incarcerated, I got my high school diploma. I got some college credits. I went on to get my barbering, my master barber's license, brick mason, plumbing, electrician. When I went to the parole board, they said that I had superseded their expectation when it came to programming.
Oh, really?
Because I was doing 2 and 3 things at one time. I'm a hustler. I'm born a hustler. My father was a hustler. My mother was a hustler. My grandmother. And so all I knew with the mentality that I had was to hustle.
Get it.
And an old timer told me one day, he tricked me really. He seen me walking around because down Lawton back then you can wear your own clothes. And so he seen me, he said, "Youngin, you was a real hustler out there in the street." I was like, "Yeah." He said, "Well, let me see you hustle yourself out this penitentiary."
Right.
And so from that point on, that left something in my mind that I could do the same thing. And then mind you, I dropped out of school in the 10th grade.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But one of the things that my grandmother had embedded in me at an early age was to read, knowing how to read. So my punishment, instead of her beating me, she used to make me read books.
Right.
And
Wonderful.
I just had to give her book reports.
Wonderful.
And one of the books that she gave me it was a small pamphlet that she gave me when I first got incarcerated. I never forget it, had a coffee stain on it. It was called As a Man Thinketh. That book changed my life. That was like my miniature Bible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and so pretty much, you know, that's how everything unfolded. Me being incarcerated, they planted me into a cell of darkness, and they thought that they thought I was done. I thought I was done, but only by the grace and the mercy of God. That
Right. Amen. That's
He
right.
seen something in me that I didn't see in myself.
That's right. That's right.
So, you know, as they planted me in that cell of darkness, I began to grow and unfold.
Right.
As the bud unfolds and
That you
shows the
are.
flowers. So here I am.
Awesome. So it's interesting that you mentioned that your grandmother punished you and made you read that book, As a Man Thinketh. And then later on, while you were incarcerated, you came across paradigm shift. So paradigms are a train of thought, a belief system, right? So early on, and then later on, when you've gotten into the mess, then you run into something that's also going to talk about changing that thought process, and there you were. It just changed your life. You know, it's interesting that our pastors, and I thank God for my man of God, Pastor Mike and D.D. Freeman at Spirit of Faith Christian Center. He always says that life is choice driven. You live or you die by the choices that you make. And that sticks with me, and I tell my kids all of the time, listen, just make sure that you make the right decision. You know, think before you move.
That's right.
Right? Which is a part of your book, right? So that's critically important, and part of the reason why I wanted to do this show, especially have you on, is because I think we're losing our youth because the recidivism rates, right, of those coming, you know, just staying in that pipeline, because the rate of single family households has skyrocketed from the 60s. Now the level of respect from our youth is terrible, right? it's just got to be something, and because of what we're going to talk about later on, from what you're doing to help in the community, locally, I thought it would just be important to have you on, because I wanted the listeners to just know that it can be done, right? You can be incarcerated, but it's just a matter of you making the decision to change, and then everything will fall into place, right?
Exactly.
Right. So, now, at what point did your father come back into your life? And when he did you immediately embrace and accept him? Or was there a power struggle? Because now I believe you were much older when he did come back, and then you had already made the decision to live the way you were living. Was he able to tell you, don't do that?
I recall, I think I was around 15, 16 years old. He had came home on a brief stay from prison. And I was around my neighborhood hustling, selling drugs, and he had walked up on me, and he seen me, transacting with a client, and he pulled me to the side. He said, "Man, what you doing out here?" So I told him, I said, "I'm handling my business." He told me, "What you mean you handling your business?" I said, "I'm being a man, something that you couldn't teach me."
Oh, wow.
To be. So at that particular time, we pretty much didn't see eye to eye. I didn't look at him as being my father.
Oh, wow.
I didn't look at him. I was my own man. I feel like, I got to the point that I had to do the things that I needed to do in order to survive. I couldn't ask my mother, for no money, for no tennis shoes or no sweatsuit, or my clothes to go to school. So, she was struggling. And so at that particular point, we didn't see eye to eye. We ended up meeting again. He had came, I think I was in Hancock County, Tennessee. He came to see me, and at that point, I felt like we could reconcile our differences, and we sit down and we talk for about an hour. And he had made a decision from that point that, we would be friends. We would reestablish a bond that we never had. And from that point, that's my best friend. My father is like I talk to him every day.
Wow.
This is like we cool. That's my man.
Okay.
And the things that he's done, and what inspired me, let me say this, what inspired me with his story, because although he had his experiences with drugs and alcohol and incarceration, when he made a decision to turn his life around, and when I seen that he was dedicated and committed to, doing the right things in life, I felt empowered.
Right.
I feel like if he can do it, I can do it. And that's the impact that he had on me. So, even though it started out a little rocky, we end up.
You guys ended up
good.
getting it together.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So he is still with us. He's not incarcerated now?
No, he's not incarcerated. Actually, he speaks all around the world, about the parallels of life in chess.
Okay.
And, it's in this book. When you read this book, you'll see some of the things. And he's also on YouTube on TED Talk. And he got like 17,000 views on TED Talk. He's a phenomenal guy, man.
Wonderful.
He's 71. I know he don't want me to tell people his age, but he's 71 years old. This guy plays tennis like 4 or 5 times a week. He can do like 100 push-ups straight. He tells me all the time he does things that's vital to his title. And he's posing to be chosen.
Goodness.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal guy.
That's awesome.
Is the message that he brings when you see him. He has a great spirit, a loving guy, and he teaches children. He have a passion to teach children, the life of chess and always think before you move. And you know, he instilled within me, and that's why I chose to do the same thing, using the
Wonderful.
platform, and not only chess, but barber.
Perfect. And that's a good segue. So what we're going to do right now, when we come back, we're going to take a short break. When we come back, we're going to get into the community service that Marco is now that he has established in the local community, as well as what his dad has established. But I want you guys to remember, this is a participatory show, so I'd like for you guys to call in if you have any questions for either myself or Marco. You can call us at 240-719-2560, or you can email me at winwithcurtis@gmail.com. And again, sponsors and your sponsorship and support is always welcome. You can call into the show, or you can email me at any time, and we will be right back. Thank you.